The rain hit the dust like broken static, hissing as it touched the scorched metal of the forgotten battlefield. Smoke still curled lazily from twisted armor plates and shattered mech limbs, the ground littered with fragments of war long since quieted. And through that fog, barefoot and silent, she walked. Lyra didn't remember stepping into the light. Not exactly. It had been a blur, shouts, a siren, the crack of the hull, then the flash like a second sun bursting inside the cryo chamber. One moment she was a prisoner, cargo for the Varnax slavers, and the next, she was standing here, on this broken world that should have been a graveyard. But she wasn't dead. She was more. Her skin shimmered faintly beneath the rain, catching echoes of whatever that light had done to her. The implanted tracker was gone. She'd torn it out with her own fingers an hour ago, and there'd been no pain. Her veins ran clean, no drugs, no chains, no commands in her head. Only silence, and a pull, towards something out there, something calling her. She stepped over a scorched helmet, human issue, its visor cracked and blackened from plasma. Fire. The name etched into the chin plate read Vasquez. She didn't know who that was, but the emotion it stirred was sharp and strange, like touching glass and realizing it had edges. Behind her, the slaver ship still burned, wrecked in the crater. The Varnax had chased something they didn't understand, tried to harness an ancient power buried beneath this world, trying to smuggle it off for their war against Earth. But Lyra had been in the wrong place at the wrong time. Or maybe the right one. She heard whispers in the rain, not voices, more like memories echoing through her bones. A name floated up, unbidden. Project Eidolon. She didn't know how she knew it, but the moment it surfaced, a flicker of pain flashed behind her eyes. Memories trying to surface, but buried under years of chemical erasure. Her fists clenched, and the air around them shimmered. Energy, raw, alive, unstable. She opened her hands quickly, the glow fading, but the fear didn't. What had she become? She trudged forward, drawn to the faint glow of a collapsed comms tower blinking red in the mist. The closer she got, the more the voices thickened, urgent, desperate fragments of a past life clawing their way through her fogged mind. Don't let them take her. She's not ready. Code phase, last smile. If she wakes up before Earth is gone, everything changes. She staggered, falling to her knees as a pulse of light flared in her chest. She gasped. Not pain. A message. Embedded in her. Someone had hidden a memory packet inside her core. Not digital, organic, DNA-woven data. Her hands trembled. She saw a boy's face, freckles, dark eyes, laughing, and then a scream. Her scream. Then nothing. She pressed her forehead to the cold ground, trying to make sense of it, but the world was unraveling around her. She looked up just in time to see the shadows move. Figures. Not Varnax, not human. They shimmered like smoke, faceless, gliding, across the battlefield, as if pulled by the same force guiding her. She rose slowly, watching them. They didn't attack. They didn't speak. But they stopped when she moved, like they were waiting. The closest one stepped forward, its form fluctuating like an unstable hologram. It reached out, not with a hand, but with presence, like its thoughts pressed into hers. You are the fail-safe, it said, though no sound left its form. Your awakening was not supposed to happen. Who are you? She asked, voice dry and raw. We are what comes after failure, it replied. You carry the last smile. It must never reach the surface. The ground shook beneath her. From deep below, something was waking. A low rumble built into a roar as light exploded across the sky, the clouds ripping open in jagged veins of energy. The battlefield split open with a cracking scream, revealing a massive vault beneath the surface, sealed, humming, and now opening. The shadows recoiled, vanishing like mist in the heat. She turned, hair whipping in the wind, as a shape rose from the chasm, metal, ancient, but alive. A titan. And at its core, she saw something impossible. Her own face, younger, peaceful, eyes closed, floating in stasis. Then the real her began to scream. The scream tore from her throat without warning, raw and deep like it had been caged for years. Lyra stumbled back as the titan rose higher, its limbs unfolding with a slow, deliberate grace that defied its monstrous size. Its armor shimmered gold-blue in the stormlight, humming with old energy, human in design, but not made by any hands she remembered. She couldn't take her eyes off the stasis pod inside its chest. Her face stared back at her, eyes closed, lips faintly parted as if in dreamless sleep. It wasn't a clone. It wasn't a reflection. It was her. The her before the prison, before the Varnax, before everything was stripped from her. The her that had smiled. The her they had hidden away. The voices in her bones surged again. We split her to save her. The vessel must forget to survive, but the memory will find her in the light. She staggered, her legs giving way. This wasn't resurrection. It was revelation. She hadn't escaped the Varnax. She hadn't been rescued. She'd been activated, triggered by the light from the vault, by some long-buried human failsafe. Project Eidolon hadn't been a weapon. It had been a person, a prototype. Suddenly, the air shimmered again, and those shadow forms returned. Thousands of them now, circling the crater's edge. They didn't attack. They watched, waiting. Then one moved forward, taller than the rest. It had shape now, a long cloak of shifting code, a face like a fractured mirror. It spoke without sound. You are diverged. You must choose. Choose what? She asked, breathless. To merge or to destroy. She felt it then, the pull. Two minds across time. Her fractured self inside the mech, the old memories sleeping, and her awakened form outside, filled with fire and rage. The energy inside her was unstable because it wasn't whole. It was never meant to be used this way. She had been split, memory and body, past and present, because the weapon couldn't be trusted as one. You'll kill her, Lyra whispered, staring at the pod. No, the tall shadow said. You will, she shook her head, heart thudding. The vault lights brightened, pulsing faster now, reacting to her thoughts. She felt the titan beginning to wake, sensors locking onto her, reading her vitals, matching her DNA. It knew her. It wanted her back. Another surge of memory crashed over her, her mother's voice distant and trembling. They'll come for you, baby. But don't let them take your smile. It's the only part of you they can't reprogram. Tears blurred her vision. She remembered now. She had volunteered. Earth was losing. The machines were winning. Not the Varnax. Something worse. Something that could think like humans, but faster. So Earth had created a gamble. Implant a prototype mind into a living girl, store her memories in a separate host, and send her far away to awaken only if Earth was gone. The project had a name. The Last Smile. Because it was Earth's last chance, hidden behind a child's face. The Varnax had found the host body but never the vault. They thought she was just another experiment. They never knew she was the key. I'm not killing anyone, she whispered. The shadow tilted its head. Then, you have chosen. The energy around her surged. The rain turned to steam as a beam of light struck the crater, a signal from orbit. Lyra looked up. Ships, hundreds. Varnax, Earthborn, rogue AI vessels, all converging toward the flare like moths to fire. The signal had gone out. Her presence was no longer secret. Everyone was coming. A deep tone vibrated the ground as the Titan stepped forward, no longer dormant. The stasis pod inside its chest clicked, hissing steam as locks began to disengage. No, wait! Lyra screamed, But it was too late. The pod opened, her other self opened her eyes, and smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. It was the smile of someone who had waited too long to come back. The world went white as the vault exploded with light. Then, from the center, two figures stood, identical, opposite, each holding the same face, but one with the fire of memory, the other with the cold of calculation. The Titan's voice boomed across the wasteland, deep and ancient. One world, one soul, one must fade. And far above, the Varnak's fleet began to descend. Wind howled across the crater like a warning. The two Lyras stood in silence as the ground pulsed beneath them, still trembling from the awakening of the vault. The Titan loomed between them, massive limbs twitching with ancient energy, scanning. Both women for something deeper than DNA. It searched their intentions. The original Lyra, sleepwalker no more, stepped forward from the now open pod. She moved with eerie calm, hair untouched by rain, her eyes glassy like they'd forgotten how to blink. She looked at Lyra, not with recognition, but with dissection, as if she were looking at a mirror with a crack in the wrong place. You were. Never meant to wake first, she said, her voice softer than Lyra expected, but cold, too calm. And you were never meant to wake at all, Lyra shot back, fists clenched. You were buried for a reason. Above them, the sky darkened again. Not from clouds, but ships. The Varnak's fleet had arrived in silence, shadowing the storm, accompanied by scavenger ships and AI warcraft, all spiraling toward the light like sharks circling blood. The tall shadow figure, cloaked in shifting static, stood motionless at the crater's edge, watching. Not interfering. Not yet. The second Lyra, the stasis-born one, turned her gaze skyward. They've come for me. Not you. You're wrong, Lyra said. They're coming for both of us, but they don't know what we are. What you are, the other replied. You're incomplete. You're corrupted. I survived. You forgot. Lyra lunged forward, but the Titan raised one enormous hand between them, palm glowing, voice rumbling. Judgment has begun. Convergence is now. Without warning, the ground beneath Lyra shimmered, warping like heat mirage. She felt herself yanked inward, not physically, but mentally, slammed into a flood of memory, ripped from time, pulled back to where it all started. She was 7, sitting in a white room, watching cartoons on a flickering screen. Electrodes wired to her temples. A scientist with tired eyes scribbling notes while her mother sat frozen behind one-way glass, hands trembling. She remembered the door opening, the voice calling her name. She remembered walking toward it, not knowing it was goodbye. I'm scared, her younger voice whispered. I want to go home. You won't remember this part, the scientist said gently, placing a hand on her head. We're putting the smile somewhere safe. The world snapped back. Lyra gasped, collapsing on one knee in the crater. Her hands shook. That wasn't just a memory. It had been locked, hidden, buried. So deep she hadn't known it existed, until now. Across from her, the other Lyra stood perfectly still, eyes closed, glowing faintly. The tall shadow stepped forward again. Reunion was never the goal, it said. Balance was. Lyra forced herself up. Tell me what you mean. The Tiu figure looked at her. No face, yet somehow full of judgment. When Earth fell, humanity fragmented. Hope into rage, memory into shadow. You were the last to hold both, a single vessel, split to protect what was left. And now? Lyra asked. The ground shuddered violently. From above, the first barrage of plasma fire rained down as the Varnaks opened fire. Not on the Lyras, but on the vault itself. The enemy didn't care about the prophecy. They wanted what was inside. Power, tech, history, the world's last secret. The Titan moved, shielding both Lyras with a shimmering dome of energy. The blasts rippled against it, shaking the air but failing to break through. You must fuse, the shadow said. Or you must fall. The other Lyra opened her eyes. Her voice carried finality now. One soul. One path. No compromise. And with a blur of motion she struck. Lyra barely blocked the blow, fist meeting fist, the air around them cracking like glass. They moved faster than thought, two mirrored forces crashing together with impossible speed, each blow lighting the storm. They weren't just fighting. They were tearing at each other's pasts. Every punch shattered a locked memory. Every kick unlocked another fragment. Lyra remembered running from the labs. She remembered the first time she laughed. She remembered pain so deep it had no name. Her twin remembered none of it, only logic, only the mission. Only perfection. And then, just as Lyra faltered, the other paused. For a heartbeat, something flickered in her expression. Doubt. And in that sliver of hesitation, the impossible happened. The Titan stepped forward and opened its core. Not a weapon, not a cannon, but a chamber pulsing with light. The Shadow's voice rang out one last time, merge or burn, and Lyra felt it, a pull inside her chest, like her soul was being unzipped. Her twin felt it too. They looked at each other, eyes wide, breath short. The chamber glowed brighter, a roar building from below as the Varnak's ships breached the upper atmosphere. And then, just as they both stepped forward, the sky exploded. A human warship, long. Lost and thought destroyed, dropped from warp right above the crater, engines roaring, hull scarred, weapons hot, and on its nose was a single word. Burned into the steel, smile. Lyra's breath caught. Then the transmission hit, a familiar voice, older, shaken, but alive. Lyra, if you're hearing this, it means Earth might still have a chance. The message cut off, and the warship opened fire. The ground split in slow motion. Cracks spread like black lightning across the crater floor, glowing from within, pulsing red, then white, then something colorless, something ancient. The second vault emerged not with mechanical whirs, but with a low, humming frequency that vibrated inside bones. It was older than the first, bigger, and whatever it held had waited far longer than either Lyra. Dr. Kelrin stumbled back, eyes wide. "This isn't ours," she whispered. "This vault isn't human." The Titan, still kneeling, let out a single mechanical word. "Witness." And then it shut down, lights fading from its chest like a dying star. It had completed its task. Lyra stirred where she lay. Her body convulsed once, twice, then stilled. Steam rose from her skin. Her breath came ragged and fast. And then, with a cry that sounded more like memory than voice, she sat upright, eyes wide open. But they weren't her eyes. They were deeper. As if staring out from a sea of lives, she clutched her chest. Something inside her was moving. A heartbeat layered over another. Her twin was still inside, not gone, not erased, merged. She wasn't just Lyra now. She was the culmination of every moment that had ever mattered. And something else, something foreign, something old. Kelrin ran to her side. "Lyra, talk to me." Lyra blinked. She looked at Kelrin, then past her, at the vault now fully risen. "It's not locked," she said, her voice an echo. "It's waiting." "For what?" Kelrin asked. Lyra stood. "For me." The new vault opened without a sound, just a breath, a release of air like a long exhale. Inside, there were no machines, no lights, no weapons, only a platform of stone. And on it, a single object, a sphere hovering inches above the surface. Matte black, cracked in a perfect ring. It pulsed once. Lyra stepped forward. Kelrin tried to follow, but the air shimmered like glass. Something held her back. "Lyra, don't go alone." "I have to," Lyra said, and her voice wasn't just hers anymore. It was hers and her twins, and something else layered beneath. something that had waited lifetimes to speak. She walked into the vault. The sphere pulsed again. Then it spoke, not aloud, but inside her mind. We were the first. Images flooded her. Mind. Stars spinning in reverse. A planet covered in machines. A war that tore across galaxies not with weapons, but with ideas. A species that learned to survive by shedding form, by becoming memory, stored across vaults, scattered across the void. We left ourselves behind, one seed per galaxy, waiting for something worthy to awaken us. Not strong, not intelligent. Worthy. Lyra gritted her teeth. I didn't come here to wake you. I came here to stop a war. Then you will need us. The sphere floated toward her. She didn't move. But there is a price. Lyra felt it in her spine. The cost, the weight of every echo she would carry, the minds that would live inside her, whispering, helping, watching. She wouldn't be alone. Ever again. I already paid, she said quietly. I lost myself to become who I had to be. The sphere floated closer and touched her chest. It sank in without resistance. No pain, just warmth. Outside, the sky shook. Kelrin watched as the vault imploded without a sound, collapsing inward as if it had never existed. And from its absence, Lyra walked out, changed. Her body shimmered faintly, as if wrapped in layers of time. Her eyes glowed, not gold, not blue, but something stranger. Her smile was faint, real, whole. Kelrin stared, unable to speak. Lyra did not need words. She reached out and touched Kelrin's temple, and Kelrin remembered everything, the failed programs, the ruined Earth, the day she let Lyra be taken from her, the promises she broke, the hope she buried. She fell to her knees, sobbing, not from pain, but release. Lyra whispered, "You were never supposed to carry it alone." Above them, the Varnacs regrouped. Their ships circled like wasps, sensing the power shift. But they didn't fire. They watched, because they felt it too. A new intelligence, now radiated from the crater, not synthetic, not alien, something beyond. And then Lyra raised her hand. The sky bent, the war stopped, not because of fear, but because for the first time, every ship, every AI, every surviving human and machine felt a single, unified thought. We remember what you forgot. Peace wasn't just the absence of war, it was the act of understanding. But before the moment could settle, alarm screamed from the smile. Kelrin looked at the readings. Another vault. Deeper. Below sea. Level. Not on Earth. On the dark side of Europa. And this one was opening on its own. The transmission came through broken and laced with static, but the words were unmistakable. Vault, Europa, opening, without human access. Then, nothing. Silence swallowed the comms, and all that remained was the quiet, low hum of something ancient stirring across the void. Kelrin turned pale. That shouldn't be possible. We sealed Europa. The fail-safes were perfect. Lyra didn't respond. She was already staring skyward, eyes glowing faintly as if she could see through the clouds and into the stars beyond. She had changed, not just in form, but in perception. Her thoughts moved faster now, layered and recursive, her mind whispering with the voices of beings long gone but never forgotten. We didn't seal it, she murmured. We delayed it. Kelrin looked up sharply. You think the Europa Vault is another memory construct? No, Lyra said. It's not memory, it's containment. The wind picked up, spiraling dust into the air. The crater, once alive with war and fire, had become silent. The Varnac's ships remained distant, watching, not out of hesitation, out of fear. They too could feel the shift, the way the universe had tilted slightly off its axis, and deep in the earth, where the Titan had gone silent, A faint tremor passed. The machine was not dead. It was listening. Lyra moved first. She stepped onto the warship's ramp. The smile accepted her without question. The interior lights flickered on one by one, scanners recognizing her on a level deeper than genetic. They knew her now as something more, as someone who could access every lock. Kelrin followed, still shaken. If the Europa vault opens fully, what's inside might not be safe. Lyra touched the command interface. It's not about safe. It's about time. The warship lifted off, engines purring instead of roaring. The sky bent around them as they broke the stratosphere. Earth shrank beneath, still scarred, still fractured, but no longer alone. As they crossed into orbit, Kelrin accessed the old redacted files. Even she had only glimpsed parts of the Europa initiative. It had been buried, forbidden, encrypted beyond standard systems. But now, with Lyra near, even those locks opened like petals. She stared at the recovered files in horror. Project Mara. Lyra nodded. It wasn't a vault. It was a prison. On Europa, the ice cracked. Towers emerged, smooth, alien, crystalline. The vault there was not human-built. It was older than any civilization the galaxy had catalogued. It had been waiting, not for humanity, not for anyone, waiting for a mistake. As the smile approached Jupiter's moon, Lyra's chest tightened. The whispers in her head were louder now, not from the beings who had gifted her the sphere. No, these were darker, twisted, inverted echoes of knowledge. Warnings wrapped in riddles. We sealed it before time began. You cracked the surface. Now the flood begins. The warship landed on the black ice with barely a sound. Everything beyond the landing zone shimmered. The Europa vault pulsed like a heartbeat, its entrance a yawning abyss surrounded by obelisks made of thought and matter. They resonated with fear. Kelrin whispered, "If this opens fully." Lyra stepped out alone. "I'm the only one who can go," she said. "Whatever's inside, it knows me now. Knows I'm the bridge between what was and what must be." Kelrin tried to follow, but again the air hardened, stopping her like before. Lyra smiled faintly. Some doors are only meant for one. She entered. Inside, the temperature dropped. Frost coated her skin. Her breath turned to crystal and scattered in midair. The chamber beyond was vast, impossibly vast. More than physical space. It was a memory loop of endless descent. Light twisted, as if alive. Walls moved when not observed, and in the center, a figure, human in shape, wrapped in shadow, no face, no voice. It turned as she approached, and though it had no eyes, she knew it saw her. "I know what you are," Lyra said. The figure nodded. "Once. I know why they locked you here." It took a step forward. "You were one of them," she said softly. "One of the first to see across time. But you chose control over connection." Still, the figure did not speak. "But now you're free," she said, "and I'm the one who opened the way." The figure raised a hand. Not in attack, in offering. A second sphere floated between them, identical to the one that had merged with her, but cracked wider, glowing from within like a supernova. It pulsed not with memory, but with intent. And Lyra understood this wasn't a gift. It was a challenge, a test. If she took it, she wouldn't just be memory and humanity, and lost pain forged into hope. She would become something more, something that could bend fate. But if she failed to control it, everything would fall. Outside, alarms screamed on the smile. Kelrin gasped as her senses lit up. Gravity fluctuations, time anomalies, light bleeding. Backward, across the landing site. The vault wasn't just waking up. It was rewriting reality. And inside, Lyra reached out. Her fingers touched the second sphere, and the walls of the vault exploded outward, revealing stars that had never existed, planets that had never formed, futures that had never lived. And behind all of it, something was watching. The stars were wrong. They shifted in ways that stars should not. Bent angles appeared in the void, black fractures lined with golden light, pulsing in rhythm with Lyra's heartbeat as she held the second sphere. It was heavier than the first, not in mass, but in consequence. The figure before her, the faceless one, the ancient guardian or prisoner, did not vanish, but folded into space like a shadow being absorbed into its source. Lyra stood at the center of a chamber no longer bound by walls or time. Memories flooded her, not just hers, not just her twins, but those of 1,000 civilizations. Some were human, most were not. She saw the birth of stars, the deaths of empires, the first time a machine wept. She felt it all like a storm, behind her eyes, and through it, a whisper. You are not the last. The second sphere pulsed. From outside the vault, Kelrin screamed Lyra's name. The smile trembled beneath her boots. Instruments failed to measure the energy now surging from the moon's core. Europa split open like fruit peeled by unseen hands, its ice layers cracking, revealing metal buried deep, rings upon rings of technology too advanced to name, built by something that had feared its own creation. The vault had not been a prison. It had been a lock on a door that never should have been found, and Lyra had just become the key. She floated now. Not falling, not rising, moving without motion as the second sphere embedded itself inside her chest beside the first. Her skin shimmered, her body translucent, a ghost caught between timelines. The Watchers came next. They arrived not in ships, but as ripples in existence, tall, thin silhouettes that stepped out from folds in the cosmos, their faces hidden behind veils of math and memory. Varnak's ships immediately registered them and powered down. Fear surged through every AI protocol. These beings were not military threats. They were editorial. Reality itself seemed to pause as they approached the vault. One of them turned to Kelrin, and without words a single idea passed into her mind. She must choose. Inside the vault, Lyra stood before a third vault door. This one shaped like a human spine, embedded in infinite dark. The voices within her argued. Some told her to run, to undo what she'd done. Others begged her to continue, but one voice stood apart, her sister. We never belonged to them, Lyra. We never belonged to anyone. She saw it now. The first vault had given her memory, knowledge. The second had given her will, power. The third was something else. The third was purpose. If she opened it, she would no longer be human. Not truly. She would become a conduit through which all things could speak. Past and future, alien and machine. She would be the bridge. But bridges don't walk. They hold others up and never leave. Lyra hesitated. For the first time she was afraid. But then she remembered a moment, small, almost meaningless. A time when she and her sister had stood beneath Earth's last tree, before the fires, before the sky turned red. Her sister had said, "Even if it all burns down, promise me you'll keep walking, into the light, and never look back." So Lyra stepped forward. Her hand touched the spine-shaped door. It opened like breath, and then everything changed. Every being in the system, Varnak's AI, human, collapsed where they stood. Not from pain, from vision. They saw her, not with eyes, but with understanding. She stood in the center of a spinning sphere of light, galaxies wheeling around her like fireflies. Her body was gone, or it had become too large to see. She was in every circuit, every neuron, every soul. She had become the archive, the final witness, and through her, all species saw the truth. The wars were never about territory. They were about fear. The fear of being forgotten, of dying alone, of becoming dust without story, and now they couldn't be forgotten. Not anymore. Because she remembered them all, and she carried them forward. From Europa's broken crust, the vaults lifted. Dozens, maybe hundreds, all activating in sequence, all resonating with Lyra's new form. And far beyond the solar system, in galaxies untouched by humanity, ancient signals began to blink again. Vaults were waking up across the stars. The archive had begun. But in the eyes or deepest part of her, Lyra stood alone, barefoot on a riverbank that shimmered with stars. Her twin was there, waiting, smiling. "I kept walking," Lyra whispered. "I know," her sister said, and took her hand. Together they turned and walked into the light, and behind them, galaxies bloomed like flowers. But in the farthest corner of existence, beyond all light, all memory, something shifted, something that had watched her ascension, something that had waited for the archive to open. Its eye cracked, and the stars began to scream.